What is the worst thing that can happen to a person? To lose money? A car? Even a house? It's possible to survive, especially material losses, but when you get a punch in the chest and can't breathe, you realize what you did wrong, so let's start from the beginning. My name is Jack. I am 43 years old. My wife, Kylie, just turned 37. If you had stopped by our house last spring, you would have seen what most would call a quiet, happy marriage. It was suburban tranquility. We lived in a modest two-story colonial house with maple trees lining the street like watchful sentinels. In the backyard was a swing set for her daughter Becca from a previous relationship. Most evenings, I grilled on the terrace while Kayla scrolled through her phone, her legs tucked neatly under her on a wicker lounge chair. We didn't have a colorful life. But it was ours. Everything started to change after her promotion in May. She was proud. Kayla had always moved through the world as if she was meant for more. She started picking up extra shifts, staying late to support her new boss. At first, I admired her ambition. I told myself that it was just a phase, that she needed time to find her rhythm. But the heat between us started to fade. She would come home late, exhausted. Not angry, just distant. Sometimes in the evening she wouldn't even take off her heels until she fell on the couch with one hand over her eyes. I offered to rub her shoulders, cook dinner, sort out Becca's schoolwork, anything to make life easier. But I started to notice the little things. Reapplying her lipstick before she left the house. The way she laughed too long when she texted. The way her phone stayed down every minute she was home. It didn't mean anything. At least not yet. In July, we argued about cereal. She said I bought the wrong kind of cereal. I stood in the kitchen, holding the box of Honey Nut Cheerios in my hands, and watched her face contort into something bitter and unfamiliar. You don't listen, she snapped. You never listen. Then she left for a meeting. That evening, I folded laundry while Becca watched cartoons in the living room. The cereal was still on the table, untouched. Something small inside me cracked. In August, I knew the name of her coworker, Josh. At first, she mentioned him casually. Then too often. She started working on weekends. She worked on holidays. She worked on our anniversary. I bought her roses anyway. She would forget to come home until 1 in the morning. But I convinced myself that she was just tired. That she needed space, support, understanding. I gave her all that. And every time I reached out to her, emotionally, physically, she seemed to be a little further away. Then came the evening of Becca's school trip. We had just walked through the halls of this quaint little private school with walls covered in children's drawings and posters about kindness. It was supposed to be a good evening. Instead, we fought again. She said I was choking her. When I carefully asked if she was seeing someone else, God help me, I did ask carefully, she blinked at me with a mixture of disgust and pity. You're paranoid, she said. She didn't even yell. She just walked away. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed we used to share and stared at the ceiling. The silence seemed radioactive. This silence is what finally broke me. As if someone was fueling a lie. It's strange, betrayal doesn't crash in like a thunderclap. It seeps, slow and quiet, like cold air under a locked door. You don't notice it at first. Then one day, you're sitting in your own home, wrapped in blankets, still shivering. After that night at Becca's school, something shifted. Quiet, but permanent. Kayla started dressing up more for work, lipstick, heels, perfume. Not the subtle kind either, the expensive bottle I gave her last anniversary. The one that smelled like citrus and apologies. Now, she wore it like armor. She stopped eating dinner with us. Took meals to go. Said she had meetings. Said she needed to catch up on numbers. But the only number I noticed was the mileage on her car. It kept climbing. One Monday evening in early October, I came home with groceries, Becca's art project flapping against the dashboard, and for reasons I still don't understand, a heart full of hope. I had this dumb idea I could reset things. That if I reminded Kayla of the warmth we used to have, she might find her way back. I cooked real dinner. Not frozen. Not boxed. Her favorite lemon pepper chicken with garlic butter asparagus. I even found that red wine she liked from that little vineyard we visited before Becca was born. Becca helped set the table, humming some off-key version of Let It Go. When Kayla walked in halfway through prep, I felt something twist in me. She didn't smile. Didn't notice the candles. Her heels clacked against the hardwood like punctuation. Dinner smells nice, she muttered, eyes already on her phone. Thought we'd eat together tonight. She paused. I have to head back. Budget reports due. Becca, sweet soul, piped up, can't you eat here first, mommy? Daddy made the chicken. That line, the tiny voice, tore something open. Kayla blinked. Just blinked. Then sighed and gave Becca a tired smile. I'll take a plate with me, honey. Mommy's just really busy. I watched Becca's face fall as she pushed a crayon across the table. I could almost hear the scratch on paper. The next day, I bought the tracker. Nothing fancy. Just a small magnetic GPS tag I ordered online. It arrived in a plain brown box, like gilt, shrink-wrapped. That night, I slid under her car under the excuse of cleaning the garage. Jack, what are you doing? She called from the porch, suspicion in her voice, new and sharp. Just moving the mower. Supposed to rain tomorrow. That was the last lie I told her before the truth started finding me. The first ping came 3 nights later. Friday. She said she was meeting Mary, her closest work friend, for dinner. The tracker disagreed. It blinked from across town, parked behind a small apartment complex. Unit 2B. I stared at the map like it was a riddle written in heartbreak. I didn't go. Not yet. Instead, I sat in my truck outside Becca's ballet class, watching her spin, fall, and spin again. She waved through the glass, hair in a messy bun, one front tooth missing. That was the emotional sucker punch. Because when your world's cracking, you cling to the reasons not to fall apart. That little wave? It reminded me why I was still standing. I smiled back, but inside, something was splintering. That night, I gave Kayla a chance. How was dinner with Mary? She didn't look up. Fine. We talked about the quarterlies. Then, flat as a paper plate, did you remember to get milk? And that, friends, is what betrayal sometimes looks like. Not a scream. Not a confession. Just the woman you love, lying with a chicken Caesar salad in her voice and apathy in her eyes. I didn't cry. Not then. But later, folding Becca's laundry, one sock inside out, the other missing, I felt my throat tighten. A man can only hold in so much. To break the tension, I made myself laugh. I held up a tiny leotard and whispered, "This sock's had more consistent presence in this house than your mother lately." Maybe it was a bad joke. But in that moment, it saved me from drowning. The thing about gut feelings, they don't scream. They whisper. They hum under your skin like static. Ignore them long enough, and they fade into background noise. But I wasn't ignoring anything anymore. That Saturday, Kayla left early. Said she had a morning conference call. She dressed too well for a phone call, heels, that lipstick again. The same shade I hadn't seen since our 5th anniversary. The one I bought her in Asheville, back when we used to joke about opening a bed and breakfast and naming every room after a wine. That memory hit harder than I expected. Her heels clicked out the door like gunshots. 5 minutes later, I checked the tracker. Not the office. She was heading west. So I followed. 2 cars behind, coffee in one hand, my pulse in the other. She didn't know I'd taken the day off. Didn't know the only thing I was dialing into was my last nerve. She pulled up behind the same beige, slightly run-down apartment complex. I watched from my truck as she stepped out, smoothed her skirt, and rang a buzzer. A man opened the door, tall, mid-30s, dress shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. He smiled like he knew her. Not a neighbor. Not a coworker. Like a man who'd kissed her that morning. She leaned in. He placed a hand on her waist. That's when it hit, the shift in your chest when your heart doesn't quite break, but slips. I didn't get out. Didn't shout. Didn't drive through the lawn like my veins were full of jet fuel. I just sat there. Watching. They disappeared inside. I didn't even notice my hand was shaking until the coffee spilled across my jeans. I drove home. In our bedroom, I stared at her side of the closet. Her clothes hung in place, neat, untouched. The perfume bottle still upright on the dresser. Citrus vanilla. I used to bury my face in that scent after rough days. Now it made the room feel haunted. Becca came in, soccer ball tucked under her arm like a peace offering. Can we go to the park? I said yes. Because when you've just watched your wife walk into another man's apartment, hand in hand like he was home, you do something that reminds you what love is supposed to feel like. We kicked that ball for an hour. Laughed when I tripped over the sprinkler. She tackled me into the grass. I told her stories about high school soccer, back when I had hair worth combing and knees that didn't sound like popcorn when I stood. Afterward, we got ice cream. She picked mint chocolate chip. Green tastes happier, she said. Sitting on a bench, a smudge of ice cream on her nose, giggling at how I always got brain freeze first, I felt a lump rise in my throat. I smiled, but my eyes burned. Daddy, are you okay? I nodded. Couldn't speak. My voice was buried behind a wall of broken promises and lemon pepper leftovers. Back home, I tucked her into bed early. She didn't ask where her mom was. By 10 p.m., Kayla still wasn't home. At 10:23, I got a text. Sorry, lost track of time. Staying at Mary's. Love you. I stared at it like it had been sent to the wrong person. Love you? That phrase used to be whispered into pillows. Now it was filler. Polite. Like asking someone how their day was when you don't care about the answer. I sat at the kitchen table until the lights blurred. Then I grabbed a beer, her favorite, and poured it down the sink. If she was going to lie, the least I could do was stop paying for the taste of her deceit. The next morning, she came home smiling, Starbucks in hand like nothing happened. Sorry I bailed last night, she said, dropping her purse. We were watching chick flicks. You know how Mary gets. I looked at her. Really looked. There was a mark on her neck. Faint. Just under the hairline. The kind of mark you miss unless you're looking. I didn't say a word. Just nodded. Hope the movie had a happy ending. She froze. Just a beat. Then laughed. Forced. You're such a dork. That night, I moved her perfume to the garage. I didn't throw it away. I just didn't want it near my pillow anymore. By Tuesday, I was already sleepwalking, existing more than living. Every morning began with silence and a closed door. Every evening ended with the soft light of Kayla's phone illuminating the darkness. We hardly ever spoke. Our relationship turned into passive-aggressive notes on the fridge. We're out of eggs. Didn't you say you were going to fix the faucet? Don't forget about Becca's concert next week. It's not all about you. Ah, romance. Shakespeare would have wept. Then there was a knock. It was a Wednesday night. I had just settled into a chair with a beer, my most faithful companion lately, while Becca watched cartoons. Kayla was working late catching up on projects. At the time, I thought the only projects she was catching up on were her chest hair and her Netflix account. So when I heard a knock, I thought it was Amazon or a neighbor who needed sugar. Instead, I opened the door and instantly regretted every good deed I had ever done. Surprise! Brenda. Kayla's mother. I'm not saying Brenda is the worst person in the world. I'm just saying that if passive aggression were a martial art, she would be a 9th-degree black belt. She stood there in a flowered trench coat, roller bag in one hand, verdict in the other. Her hair was varnished into a helmet of disapproval, and her eyes scanned the house like a TSA agent for emotional contraband. Oh, she said, looking past me, Kayla's not here? I thought she'd be home to greet her mother. She's working late. Brenda muttered. Still putting work before family, huh? You poor thing. You look thin. Are you eating? I just had some lasagna. I hope you didn't make it yourself. And just like that, my evening died a quiet, miserable death. She rolled up her bag without waiting for an invitation. I stood there, stunned, robbed of my politeness. The sofa cushions were still warm when she sank down on the couch, took off her coat, and fluffed the cushions with surgical precision. I've decided to stay for a few days, she announced, already looking through the linen closet. During our last phone conversation, something was wrong. Kayla seemed distraught. Is everything okay between you two? I smiled, the kind of smile you see in pre-antidepressant photos. Fine. Brendan narrowed her eyes, her voice lowered, as if we were planning an espionage. Jack, has she been drinking again? There it was, Brenda's explanation. Every time Kayla went out, it had to be wine. She never lied. Never another man. Just a bold Cabernet and bad timing. She's just busy, I said. She muttered. Too busy to notice that your hair is thinning and your jeans don't fit. That night, Kayla came home and almost dropped her purse when she saw her mother on the couch watching Jeopardy! While folding our laundry. Mom? What are you doing here? Brenda turned slowly, holding up a pair of Kayla's lace panties like a trophy. Oh, just trying to save the marriage, one load of laundry at a time. I apologized and headed for the garage and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I had to. A dry, helpless laugh that ends in a wheeze. Life had turned into a sitcom, and I was the only one who got the joke. By Thursday, I was seriously considering becoming a trucker, just for the silence. Every morning began with Brenda's inquisition. Do you pray together? Are you still close? Do you think Kayla is unhappy? I have a friend whose daughter's husband left her, and now she lives on a houseboat with a cat. He seems very happy. I sipped my coffee as if it were the only thing that kept me grounded in reality. But underneath the sarcasm, Brenda began to notice things. Things that I had convinced myself were only in my head. She's wearing that lipstick again, isn't she? She said one morning. I froze in the middle of my toast. She used to save it for dates. Now she's wearing it all the time. I didn't answer. And I noticed she's been changing in the laundry room lately. It used to be your bedroom. Why? Still nothing. Then she looked at me, her voice softer than usual. Jack, is there someone else? My throat tightened. I wanted to lie. To pretend. To keep the fantasy intact. But instead, I just said, I don't know. That was enough. She reached across the table and squeezed my wrist. You're a good man, Jack. You've always been a good person. Don't let her humiliate you for it. Those were the first kind words Brenda had said to me in years. And for a moment, I hated how much I needed it. That night, as I was putting Becca to bed, she whispered, Grandma says you're sad. Are you sad? I kissed her forehead and said, sometimes. But not when I'm with you. And in that moment, wrapped in flannel sheets and innocence, I remembered why I was still here. Why I didn't burn it all down. Because someone had to stand on their feet when the whole house started to shake. The thing about knowing, it's never clean. You think you want the truth, but when it shows up, it doesn't knock. It kicks in the door, throws your heart on the table, and dares you to keep breathing. The night I confirmed it, the house was quiet. Kayla was working late again. Brenda had finally left that morning after a dramatic farewell, hugging me like a widow at a funeral. Becca was at a sleepover. Just me, the silence, and a gut that wouldn't stop twisting. I couldn't take it anymore. In the garage, behind paint cans and a broken leaf blower, sat the shoebox. Inside, the web interface for the tracker, 2 burner phones, and a voice recorder, tools of a man still hoping he was wrong. One tap on the screen. The tracker lit up. Not her office. One more click. Address loaded. Same apartment complex. Same unit. 2B. This time, I didn't hesitate. I didn't rehearse what I'd say. Didn't bring a weapon. Didn't wear my best shirt like some sad knight clinging to dignity. I just drove. The lot was quiet, the hum of distant TVs flickering behind closed blinds. The walk to 2B felt a mile long. My footsteps echoed like a countdown. I stood outside the door for 30 seconds. Just long enough to wonder if I was wrong. Then I heard it, her laughter. And his. That laugh I hadn't heard in over a year. I rang the bell. Silence. Then shuffling. The door cracked open. And there she was, hair tousled, eyes wide. Jack? I stared at her. Said nothing. A shirtless man appeared behind her. Mid-30s. Wrinkled dress shirt half on. He looked like he'd just been told the cops were here for noise complaints. Who's this? He asked, scratching his neck. Kayla opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. I didn't want her words. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I looked at him. You her boss? He blinked. Yeah. Of course. Of course it was him. The kind of guy who calls everyone buddy and lies on his taxes. I turned back to her. Her lips parted, trembling now. Jack, I can explain. My voice came out low, dry. Don't. She stepped forward, as if closing the space between us could erase the last 6 months. Please, she whispered, eyes glassy. It's not what you think. And that's when I laughed. Not a scoff. Not a chuckle. A full laugh. Deep, empty. The kind you hear in padded rooms. Not what I think. I wiped a tear from the corner of my eye. Kayla, you're standing half-dressed in your boss's apartment on a Thursday night. Unless you're here to deliver a sermon, I'm pretty sure it's exactly what I think. She looked like she might crumble. Then he spoke. Hey, man. Maybe we should. I turned to him. You know she has a daughter, right? He froze. She's 7. Thinks her mom's a superhero. Made her a Mother's Day card last year that said, "You're the best mommy in the world." You remember that, Kayla? It's still on the fridge. Right next to the grocery list you haven't touched in weeks. Her lip quivered. Jack. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did, I said. And you let it. Silence. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I pulled out my phone. Hit play. Her voice crackled through the speaker, recordings from the burner phone. Late-night messages to her friend from the fake profile. The ones where she called herself a widow. Said she missed the feeling of being wanted. Talked about clearing her head with other men before she settled down again. She gasped. How did you? I stopped the playback. I gave you every chance to come clean, I said. You had 100 exits from this fire. You chose to burn. The boss took a step back. Look, I didn't know she was married. She said. I held up a hand. Not here for you. You're a speed bump in a car wreck. Go back to your wine cooler. And then I turned to leave. Kayla reached out. Her voice cracked. Jack, please. Don't tell Becca. I froze mid-step. That was the dagger. Because I hadn't done this. She had. I won't, I said, looking over my shoulder. But one day she'll ask why you're not around. And I'll tell her the truth. I left her standing there. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just the quiet of a woman who never thought she'd be caught. And I drove home under a sky that looked like it had swallowed every star. The thing about betrayal is, it echoes. Not like a scream, but a slow, spreading silence. It sits with you in the car. Follows you into the house. Crawls into bed and stays until your dreams go gray. That night, after leaving her in the doorway, I drove home with the windows down, trying to breathe something real. Something not laced with her perfume or his cologne. I turned off the radio, music felt dishonest. The house looked exactly as I'd left it. Becca's sneakers by the door. Her backpack on the hook, a drawing peeking out me, her, and Kayla holding hands beneath a sun with too many rays. All of us smiling. I sat on the couch. Same spot where I used to rub Kayla's feet during movie nights. I stared at nothing. The walls had heard everything. I poured a drink, nothing strong, just enough to steady the numbness, and stared into the glass like it might offer instructions. I wasn't angry. Not yet. That would come. First, there was this dull, sick disbelief. You don't realize how many versions of your marriage you carry until they all break at once. The vows. The night she cried in my arms during Becca's first fever. The late-night drives when neither of us could sleep. All of it, now footnoted and suspect. I pulled out the shoebox. The receipts, tracker logs, screenshots. Every piece of proof I once thought I needed. But they felt useless now. Heavy. Like souvenirs from a place I never wanted to go. Around midnight, I tried to sleep. I couldn't. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened our wedding album. Page 1, her beaming, lace veil catching the sun. Me, younger, holding her hand like I'd just won the lottery. Page after page, our smiles stared back. Frozen. Blissfully unaware. And then I found the note. Folded into the back cover. Faded. I'll always choose you. She'd written it the night before the wedding. That broke me. I don't cry often. Wasn't raised that way. But that night, sitting on our bed with the album in my lap, I sobbed like someone mourning the dead. Because something had died. Not just trust. Not just love. But the version of me that believed those things were enough. The next morning, Kayla was home. She stood in the kitchen in her robe, pouring coffee like it was just another Thursday. Her eyes met mine. No performance. No denial. Just recognition. I didn't come home last night, she said quietly. I noticed. I wasn't at Mary's. I know. She looked down. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. Sorry is what you say when you break a glass. Not when you blow a hole through the life you swore to protect. I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. I let out a bitter laugh. You didn't have to mean it. You just had to do it. She nodded, eyes glassy. I was lonely. You were bored, I said, sharper than I meant. There's a difference. She flinched. We stopped trying, Jack. No. You stopped trying. I've been here. I never left. She sat at the table, gripping her mug like it might keep her grounded. I just wanted to feel something again. And you couldn't tell me that? I didn't know how. I shook my head. You knew how to lie. How to hide. Communication wasn't the problem. She didn't argue. We sat in silence. Not the kind that heals. The kind that suffocates. Then Becca walked in, rubbing sleep from her eyes, hair a mess of curls and dreams. Can we make pancakes? She asked, smiling. Kayla blinked back tears. Of course, sweetie. Just like that, the scene shifted. From wreckage to routine. From exposed wounds to pretend smiles. I stood up. I couldn't sit in that lie. I'm going to take a shower. Kayla nodded. Jack. I paused on the stairs. I love you, she said. I didn't respond. Because I didn't know if I could ever believe those words again. Upstairs, under the stream of hot water, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there. And for the first time in our entire marriage, I felt completely alone. The house felt hollow after that morning. Not physically, Becca's laughter still echoed off the walls, her markers still left streaks of color on the table, the dog still barked at the mailman like clockwork, but spiritually. Like the soul of the place had slipped out during the night and forgotten to leave a note. Kayla and I didn't talk much. We moved through the days like ghosts with a shared lease. I went to work. Cooked dinner. Cleaned up. She picked up Becca from school, asked if I needed anything, then retreated to the bedroom with the door left slightly ajar, just enough to suggest she wasn't hiding, but not enough to say she was open. One night, walking past the room, I heard her crying. Not loud. Not theatrical. Just that quiet, muffled kind of weeping that sounds like a tire deflating in the rain. And I felt nothing. Not anger. Not pity. Not even satisfaction. Just distance. It scared me, how far away from her I already felt. Like I'd been backing up inch by inch for months and only now realized how small she looked from where I stood. I started sleeping in the guest room. She didn't protest. That room, smaller, colder, became a space where I began sorting through my thoughts like a man sifting through the ashes of a burned-down house, hoping to salvage something. Some nights, I stared at the ceiling, counting all the things I hadn't said when I should've. The compliments I never gave. The hugs I delayed. The arguments I escalated out of pride, not purpose. Maybe that's what hurt the most. Not just what she did. But wondering if I helped build the road she used to run away. One night, I sat at the kitchen table with an old photo album open in front of me. Our first summer after the wedding. Road trips. Concert tickets. Ice cream dripping on our jeans. We looked so damn happy in those photos. Like nothing could touch us. I turned to one where she'd fallen asleep on my shoulder during a movie in the park. I remembered how her fingers unconsciously curled into mine. The way she fit. I touched the photo and whispered, "Where did you go?" Then, quietly, from behind me, like a ghost replying, "I don't know." I turned. Kayla stood in the doorway. Eyes red. Sweatshirt sleeves pulled over her hands like she was trying to hide inside them. "I wasn't always this person," she said. I closed the album. Neither was I. She stepped into the room but didn't sit. Just hovered, like she didn't trust the floor to hold her. "I made so many excuses in my head," she said softly. "Told myself you were distant. Too busy. That I deserved something more. That I wasn't hurting anyone because I still came home. Still cooked dinner. Still kissed you goodnight." I stayed silent. My silence was the only thing holding me together. But the truth is, she paused. Her voice cracked. I got used to the idea that you'd always be there. That you'd forgive anything. That I could break a little piece of us and you'd just glue it back together. I swallowed hard. I used to think that, too. She looked down. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. But I need you to know. I wish I could go back. I stood slowly, unsure of what I was about to do. She looked up. Hope flickering like a dying candle. I wish you could too, I said. But wishing doesn't fix anything. She nodded, biting her lip. Then she asked something I'll never forget. Do you think you'll ever love me again? It was the most honest question she'd asked in years. No spin. No defense. Just raw, unguarded truth. And I didn't have an answer. Not because I didn't know. But because anything I said right then would have been a lie. So I stepped past her, gently, and went to tuck in Becca. That night, I sat beside my daughter's bed, listening to the rhythm of her breathing. And I realized something. Love doesn't vanish all at once. It frays. One little betrayal at a time. One missed conversation. One night of silence when you needed connection. And by the time you turn back, the other person is already gone. Not physically. But in every way that matters. And you're left holding the echo. Some confrontations don't come with slammed doors or raised voices. Some come in the stillness when the weight of everything unsaid finally becomes too heavy to carry. It was a Friday night when it happened. Becca was at a sleepover. The house was quiet, too quiet. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the same dented refrigerator I'd meant to replace for 2 years. Funny, the things that stay broken when you're busy trying to fix other people. Kayla walked in barefoot, her hair up, wearing one of those old college sweatshirts she only pulled out when she was trying to look normal. The sight of it annoyed me more than it should have. Like she was dressing in the costume of a simpler time. She poured herself a glass of wine. Didn't ask if I wanted one. So, she said, too casual, we should talk. I leaned against the counter. Now you want to talk? Her lips twitched. I've been trying. No, I said. You've been explaining. That's not the same. She exhaled. Okay, then let's stop explaining. Let's get to it. I crossed my arms. You first. She looked at me, eyes raw. Do you want a divorce? I didn't answer right away. The word just hung there, a grenade waiting for someone to pull the pin. I want clarity, I said finally. I want the truth. I want the version of you that doesn't wear a different mask in every room. She took a sip of wine, then sat at the dining table like we were starting a negotiation. Fine. The truth? I wasn't happy, Jack. I felt invisible. I needed something more. And I didn't know how to ask for it without sounding ungrateful. My jaw tightened. So instead of asking, you cheated. I tried. No. You resented. That's different. You kept score and never told me the rules had changed. She looked down at her hands. I didn't want to hurt you. No, I snapped. You didn't want to be the bad guy. There's a difference. Her voice cracked. Do you really think I planned all this? I think you let it happen. One selfish choice at a time. She stood abruptly, voice rising. I gave you years, Jack. I supported your career. I raised Becca while you worked 12-hour shifts. I was building a life for us. I slammed my palm against the counter. Not just a paycheck. A home. A future. I missed dinners so you wouldn't have to miss security. You missed more than dinners, she whispered. You missed me. That stopped me. There it was. The wound under all the wounds. I missed you? I said, softer now. I was right here, Kayla. Trying. Showing up. Being enough. But I guess being present doesn't matter when your mind's already gone. Her shoulders sagged. I didn't expect it to go this far. No, you didn't expect me to find out. That's what you mean. Silence fell between us. Then I asked the question I hadn't dared before. Was it just him? Kayla froze. That silence said everything. I nodded slowly, chest tight. How many? She didn't answer. I laughed, quiet and bitter. God. I was chasing shadows, and you were handing out pieces of yourself like party favors. Her face twisted. That's not fair. No, I said. Fair left the building the night you started telling another man you were a widow. She gasped. You read that? I saved it. She stepped back like I'd hit her. I walked into the living room, sank into the couch, stared ahead. Waited. She followed. Why haven't you left? She asked. I was waiting for you to show me who you really are. And now? I looked at her. And for the first time in months, I saw her clearly, not the woman I married, not the memory I'd been trying to preserve. Just Kayla. Flawed. Broken. A stranger. Now I'm done. She sank to the floor like her legs couldn't hold the weight of that sentence. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. Where are you going? She asked, voice breaking. For a walk. Before I say something I can't take back. Jack. I turned. You want the truth? Here it is. I don't know if I can ever love you again. But I know I can't live with someone who looks me in the eye and lies without blinking. And I left. The wind hit me like a cold slap, but it felt better than the air inside. I walked for an hour. Ended up on the hood of my truck outside Becca's school, staring at the empty playground swing in the night breeze. That's when it hit me. This wasn't the end of my marriage. That happened months ago. This was just the moment I stopped pretending it wasn't over. You expect heartbreak to come like an explosion, shattered glass, screaming matches, maybe a well-thrown mug. Something cinematic. But sometimes, it shows up as stillness. It was Sunday morning, 2 days after I walked out. I hadn't gone far. Slept in my truck the first night. Stayed at Brandon's the next, not because I needed company, but because he was the only one who didn't ask questions. He handed me a beer and turned on the game. That was it. That was the support. And weirdly, it worked. But by Sunday, I went home. Becca deserved normalcy, even if I didn't have it to give. The front yard was covered in golden leaves. I stepped inside, and the smell of pancakes hit me like a memory that didn't belong anymore. Becca ran to me, wrapping her arms around my leg like nothing had changed. Daddy, you missed chocolate chip sundae. I forced a smile. You saved me some? She nodded, then ran off to get a plate. Kayla was in the kitchen, barefoot again, pretending to be domestic. Like betrayal could be folded into batter and drowned in syrup. We didn't speak. Didn't even nod. I sat with Becca, trying not to unravel. She chatted about cartoons, her teacher's weird shoes, and a boy named Jordan who doesn't understand personal space. I nodded, said oh really, when I remembered to. But every third word bounced off a wall of static. Because all I could think was, I built this life. I protected it. I bled for it. And it betrayed me while I was still standing in it. After breakfast, Kayla asked if we could talk privately. I followed her to the laundry room because I guess that's where confessions go when the living room's already full of lies. She stood by the dryer, folding towels like the motion could buy her grace. I've scheduled therapy, she said, voice tight but trying. I leaned on the doorframe. Good. You'll need it. She winced. Jack. Stop, I said. I'm not angry. I'm just tired. She nodded, slowly. Then she said it. I didn't sleep with just one man. I exhaled, slow. I figured. She swallowed. I wasn't looking for it. It just kept happening. I felt powerful. Seen. You had a husband who saw you. But not the way they did. And that was the line that finally broke the last piece of me I hadn't known was still intact. You wanted worship, I said flatly. I gave you loyalty. You traded it for flattery. She didn't argue. Which somehow made it worse. I went upstairs. Showered in silence. Stared at myself in the mirror. Grief doesn't change your face in dramatic ways. Just the eyes. Just the mouth. Just enough that every smile now has to pass through a checkpoint. I wiped the fog from the glass and thought, this is what disappointment looks like when it starts aging you. By noon, I was on the back porch with a bourbon I didn't need and a head full of noise I couldn't shut off. Then Brandon texted. Still on for poker night? You could use the distraction. I stared at the message. Then replied, absolutely. Who's bringing beer? That night, in a friend's basement with cheap chips and cheaper whiskey, I laughed harder than I had in months. We joked about work, sports, and how Larry somehow still had dial-up. It was mindless. Safe. The opposite of everything waiting for me at home. Somewhere between a bad hand and a worse bluff, the conversation turned. "Hey Jack," one of the guys asked, "you ever think of dating again?" I blinked. The question landed harder than it should have. "Too soon," I muttered. Brandon chuckled. "Too late, man. You've been emotionally single for a year." And just like that, I felt it. The absurdity. The gut-punch humor of it all. Kayla had lied. Cheated. Gaslit. And I was the one who felt guilty for giving up. I laughed. Maybe too hard. "What's so funny?" Larry asked. "I spent 20 years loving someone who treated compliments from strangers like currency," I said. "And now I feel bad for not wanting to fix it." Silence. Then Brandon raised his glass. To the men who were the last to know. We all drank. That night, I stumbled home, tipsy but clear. I stood in the driveway, staring up at our bedroom light. She was still awake. I didn't go inside. Instead, I pulled out my phone and wrote a message. I didn't send it. But I wrote it. "You didn't just break us. You broke the part of me that thought I wasn't replaceable. And that's what I'll never forgive." Then I deleted it. Because some things are better left unsaid when the damage has already answered them. Spring came slowly. It didn't arrive with fireworks, just shy patches of green pushing through frostbitten soil. The air lost its bite. The sky stayed lighter, longer. Even the house felt different. Like it, too, had finally exhaled something it had been holding onto for too long. Kayla and I didn't reconcile. There were no screaming matches. No second chances. No grand declarations. Just an understanding. She moved out in early March. Quietly. No drama. One box at a time. She cried on the porch while I stood on the steps, Becca tucked against my side. "I really thought we'd make it," she whispered. I nodded. So did I. That was it. The divorce papers were signed 2 weeks later. No courtroom. No spectacle. Just two people who used to be everything, now reduced to paperwork and a final page turned. I kept the house. She took the smaller car and rented an apartment near Becca's school. We agreed on joint custody. Becca handled it better than I expected. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget how to be. One morning in April, she looked at me over breakfast and asked, "Are you happy now?" I paused. Really thought about it. Then I said, "I'm getting there." And it was true. Happiness didn't come in fireworks. It came in the quiet. In making pancakes on Saturday mornings with music playing low. In mowing the lawn without wondering who was lying to me inside the house. In breathing without suspicion. I started running again. Just a mile at first. Then 2. It didn't fix everything, but it helped. I slept better. Smiled more. I started therapy not because I was broken, but because I was rebuilding. And I wanted to lay the bricks right this time. There's no bow on this story. No Hollywood kiss. I'm not in a new relationship. I'm not ready for that yet. But the silence in the house now? It's not emptiness anymore. It's peace. And that's more than I ever thought I'd feel again.